Hi, Gracie.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in.
Of course.
So, before we begin, I want to go over some important information. Sorry, it's a little loud. This is a recorded mock counseling session for a graduate level class assignment. It will be recorded on video and shown to my professor. This is not a real therapy session, and although we'll treat it seriously, it is not a confidential counseling space in the legal or clinical sense. And I know that you've read the section of the syllabus that talks about the limits of confidentiality, and you understand that you should not bring up any real life issues that are too personal or currently distressing. And you're encouraged to adopt a persona or a fictional scenario. For the purpose of this session, I will presume you are using a persona. Okay. I just want to make sure again, do you understand and agree to participate in this recorded mock session?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for agreeing to participate.
Of course.
Gracie, before we dive in, I want to let you know a little bit about what today will look like.
Okay.
So this is called an intake session. Basically, what it means is I'm trying to gather as much information I can about you. I know you've lived for 27 years, so I want to try to catch up on your history and your life and your experiences. It will take about an hour in this session. We'll also talk about what you're hoping to have come out of this therapy with me and any goals you want. So, yeah. You're also welcome at any time when I'm asking questions to stop, and you can ask for clarification if you don't understand any of the questions, okay? So yeah, does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, great. So to start, would you be open to sharing what brought you in today?
Yeah. I would say since probably around 18, when I moved out of the house, I've been experiencing a lot of anxiety and depression come up. I think that potentially I was kind of blocking it out when I was growing up because of the household I was in. So when I moved out on my own, I think now since I'm living in a safer area, a lot of the emotions are arising.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So what I'm hearing is that while you were growing up, you had pretty good coping strategies of how to navigate your feelings in the home because you had to learn to block it out. Now that you're not living in that home, it's a little bit harder to manage because they're bubbling up to the surface.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can you tell me what kind of things are bubbling up to the surface for you?
Yeah. I think that I was kind of far away from the feelings when I was growing up, so I was coping with them to a certain extent, but I wasn't fully in my body and fully connected to my feelings. And then when I moved on my own, I've been having panic attacks, and then just some depressive episodes. And I don't see a real pattern to them right now. I just feel that a lot has come up since I moved out, and I'm just wanting to find a way to cope with that on my own.
Yeah, that sounds overwhelming. Yeah, so it's like you're not really sure how to manage it right now. You're also not sure how to track it. Is it more random? So in the past 2 weeks or so, would you say you've had one episode, two?
My anxiety seems to be there's always a baseline that I'm following, and then it gets worse with certain triggers, whereas the depression seems to be a little bit more random.
Okay. Right. So it takes something to kind of trigger that anxiety for you, and then the depression will just come whenever.
Yeah.
And when you're feeling the depression, does it happen for one day, or does it last?
Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 days. Other times it seems to go I don't know, maybe up to a week or so, and then it'll kind of even out again. But when I get over the depressive episode, I know another one's coming, so I still feel on edge. I don't feel like I'm fully returning back to living normal.
Yeah, well, that sounds like it can be really challenging to try to manage. And it's wonderful that you took the step to come to therapy and talk to someone about it. That means you are wanting to put the work in and try to figure out what's going on. So I'm glad that you're here.
Thank you.
And I'm just curious, have you been in therapy before?
I've been to a few therapists, but the therapy that I have been to, it seemed like I was being diagnosed like extremely fast, or just getting kind of medicine thrown at me, and I am looking for a little bit more like a holistic approach.
It's wonderful, and that's great that you have that awareness of what you need.
Yeah.
And I'm also sorry that you didn't have the best experience. Sounds like they didn't see you or weren't able to meet what you needed at the time. So
exactly.
I'm hoping for us that this can be a collaborative approach, and that we can work together, and that, you know, you come first with what you want and what's comfortable. And yeah, today is going to be more of just gathering information, but in our next couple sessions we'll definitely go over more ways to manage what's going on for you together.
Sounds great.
Okay, good. Alrighty, well, I know that you mentioned earlier your home life, and when you were 18 you moved out, and you were living by yourself or with roommates?
When I moved out at 18, I was living by myself.
Okay. And are you still living by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And how is that going for you?
It's going good. I definitely am happy to be in a safe place where I can come home to every night, and I've made like a safe area for myself. I would say that the main struggle is really what I was saying, with just like some of the emotions coming up, but I also feel like it's an important time to go to therapy instead of like avoiding the emotions, because I am feeling things that I definitely need to work through from childhood.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the hardest part, but it's also a good thing. But other than that, living alone has been really nice, and it's nice to have a safe place.
Yeah, I love to hear that you've been able to cultivate your own safe place, and that you're also wanting to see what you can do to make that place even safer. So
yeah, exactly.
I love that. So yeah, I'm hearing again like the challenge of growing up for you, and I want to know a little bit more about that. So is there something you would like me to know about your childhood, about your family?
Yeah, my mom has Munchausen's by proxy, so pretty much our entire childhood, I just recently came to terms with this. It felt as if she would pretty much feed into our brains that we were sick, or if we were sick, that was the only time we could get her attention. So it actually made it so I believed that I was always sick, and I think that's what's coming up a lot now as I'm living on my own, and I'm constantly anxious about like actually being sick. And I'm also feeling like, as far as attention with my mom, like in order to get attention from someone, I need to like play a part of like being sick or needing help. And I'm trying to really step into like independence, and it's hard to do that when I'm so wired to work like that.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be very challenging to grow up like that, and it sounds like a lot of fear that you had to live with, and that fear is still coming up now.
Exactly, right.
So how's your relationship with your mom now?
It's okay. I think that, she's actually started going to therapy, and I think that she's gotten some of the help that she needs, so our relationship has balanced out a little bit. So it's not as bad as it was growing up, where I felt this like constant need to, get her attention and feel loved by her. But it's not as close as I would like it, so I'm still dealing with that as well.
That's definitely something we can work through together.
Yeah.
Okay. And for your dad?
My dad is pretty much out of the picture completely.
And was he out of the picture? When did that start?
He was also pretty much, my mom was putting that the sickness onto him too, and he was great to me and my siblings until maybe 8 or 9, and then he just ended up leaving, and I actually have not talked or heard from him since. So the childhood life has been very rough, but me and my siblings are very close, so that's what kind of helped me through.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you can have that support of your siblings, even though you've had the challenges with your parents. So tell me a little bit about your siblings.
I have 2 brothers, one older and one younger. I'm very close to both of them, and they both are experiencing kind of similar things to me right now as far as the anxiety, but I definitely think that it was worse for me growing up in the way of I was the only girl besides my mom in the house, and I felt like I was close with my brother, so I kind of had that male figure, so that's why the absence of my father didn't affect me as much, whereas I really wanted like another woman to connect with. So I think that really affected me. My brothers are still affected by it, but they seem to be doing a lot better now that they moved out. So the three of us are all out of the house now.
Okay. Yeah, it's really wonderful that you have them as a support, even though they do share some of the similar anxiety.
Yeah.
Who else do you have in your life for support?
My friends and my grandparents I'm very close to.
Okay.
And then I do see like a couple other types of therapists for like massage therapists, and I have a Reiki practitioner I go to. So although this is my only like sit down type of talk therapy, I have a couple other therapies that I go to.
That's wonderful. It sounds like you have some other modalities that you can have for healing. That's wonderful. Okay, so I know this might be a difficult question to ask, but were there any other experiences with abuse growing up?
It was mostly my mom, what I was discussing before, and then I did have a boyfriend at the end of high school, like to the beginning of college, so kind of during the time where I moved out on my own, that was sexually abusive, and I was with him for like about 9 months or so. I have no contact to him anymore, and I definitely have seen some effects of that abuse in my life, but it's interesting that during I was kind of like how I was in my childhood, I was kind of like disassociated from all of it, and like I didn't feel like it was actually happening to me. So that has also come up recently, where I feel like now I'm kind of in a safe place, and now all these things are coming up because it's like my body's allowing it to come up now that I'm in a safe place. So it's just a lot to deal with at once. But I know it's important. So that's the other, I would say, like major abuse that I've been through.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I know it can't be easy to think about what has happened to us in the past and how it's still presently showing up for you. And I appreciate you sharing with me your symptoms of, potential dissociation and how that has come back and it's familiar to what you've experienced when you were younger. So once again, we'll definitely work through that in our following sessions. So I want to know, I heard a few things about what you do to kind of cope, like you have your massage therapist and Reiki therapist that you go to. Are there any other strategies you do by yourself that helps you to kind of cope when you're starting to experience these symptoms?
I try to meditate pretty frequently. At first, meditating was really hard because when I would start, kind of like a lot of thoughts would come into play, and I actually got anxious while I was meditating, and I would get like angry at myself, thinking that this isn't how it's supposed to go. But I tried to, have some grace with myself, realizing that quieting your mind is going to be hard after years of abuse. So I've definitely gotten better at it. Meditating, not only just meditating like at night and sitting meditating, but also learning to meditate while I do other things. So like a meditative walk or meditative journaling. So I would say those are like my biggest coping strategies. I also like running.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That sounds really wonderful that you have these tools that you can call on, and I liked that you said I worked through, the discomfort of not like doing it right, and finding that whatever is working for you works for you, and it's good to sit in that uncomfortability. So awesome. Good. So I know you mentioned that you had these coping strategies for meditation. I'm curious if that falls with like your spirituality or any cultural beliefs you have, or if that's...
I don't follow like one specific religion, but I do consider myself a spiritual person. I feel like I've always been spiritually connected, like since I was little, before I even really knew what it was. And I do have beliefs, and I feel like my beliefs are based on what I feel energetically and what I see energetically, rather than like, structured under some sort of religion. But I'm definitely open to learning more about like, I as your holistic therapist, like different coping mechanisms you have or different ways that you use your spirituality. I'm definitely open to learning about those, especially because I specifically looked for a holistic therapist, just to kind of see my body as a whole and as me as a unique client rather than just like the same thing, like how I felt in the past with therapists.
Oh yeah, that's a really beautiful way to put it. I love how you're framing that for yourself. It sounds like you know what you're looking for, and I'm glad that we've met and we can work through this holistically and see you as your full, authentic self.
Exactly. Right.
Awesome. Great. So, this is kind of not related, but we could talk about what you do for work. I don't know.
Yeah. So I actually became certified for massage a few years ago. So I've been working as a massage therapist, but I do a lot of trauma releasing work.
Okay.
Which is, it's funny because I actually was like really skeptical and like nervous about going to a therapist because of my past experiences, but being a massage therapist has opened my eyes that like a therapist who loves what they do and are passionate about it will be able to help you, and they do care about you as a client. So that's what kind of pushed me to be here, even though it's uncomfortable. But as far as massage therapy, I've been practicing since I was 22, and I love my job. There's nothing necessarily bad about it. I think it can be tough sometimes when a client I'm working with holds a trauma that might be similar to mine, and I'm trying to learn how to kind of separate myself from it. But other than that, it's great. I feel like I really enjoy helping people, releasing trauma and anxieties and just like emotional hardships through their body, but also doing it while I'm massaging and relaxing them. So I really enjoy my job.
Wow, yeah, I did see you like perk up when you were talking about your job. So
Yeah.
that's always so lovely to hear when you love what you do. And once again, I really appreciate your vulnerability and talking to me about the challenges that you have had with trusting a therapist. It sounds like your trust was broken and that you weren't really seen.
Yeah.
And so I know that can be hard to take the step to come back and try again.
Yeah.
But like I said before, I'm really wanting to do this with you and work together. So
yeah, that's really nice to hear, actually.
Good. And we can absolutely connect over, our holistic lens. And
Yeah, definitely.
I love that your job, it sounds like, has brought you to a place with yourself to know what you want to do for others, help others. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's great. Good. So can you tell me a little bit more about your friends and your other support systems, your grandparents you mentioned?
Yeah. My grandparents, I actually am close to grandparents on both sides.
Good.
So on my mom and my dad's side, all four of my grandparents are living, which I'm very grateful for, and I have a pretty close relationship with all four of them. My grandfather on my mom's side is actually very spiritual.
Oh, nice.
So that's a really nice connection to have in my family, because although I'm very close with my siblings and my friends, they don't really share the same love for just I don't know, I guess bettering ourselves in general and just wanting to work towards a higher self, and my grandfather does, so that's really nice. We meditate together. He also does massage and Reiki. So I would say out of all my grandparents, that's kind of the closest relationship I have. And then friends, I have one good group of friends from high school. We're still close, we get together every once in a while, and then I have, besides that, one other best friend that's a very good support.
Good. Are your grandparents living close to you?
Yeah, they live fairly close. Both sets of grandparents live within the hour away from me.
Good.
So I get to see them pretty often.
And your friends live close to you as well?
Yeah, for the most part.
Nice. So what does a week look like for you?
So usually I have clients in my job from Tuesday through Saturday. So Sunday and Mondays are my days off, and usually on my days off, I just, at least recently, I've been trying to get in a better routine. As you can see, I'm just starting therapy, but I'm also trying to just better myself in other ways, as far as I recognize that I thrive off routine. So I'm trying to have a steady gym schedule, and with, as far as meditating, not necessarily having a schedule, but just making sure I'm staying consistent no matter how I feel. So a week in my life besides working those days, because usually when I work all day, come back, dinner, sleep, pretty simple. And then on my days off, I definitely try to have, kind of dive into the social life because all week I'm working. So I'll see like my brothers or my friends or my grandparents, as I mentioned, or if I'm up to it, I will try to see my mom. And then other than that, kind of what I mentioned before, like I'll go for a run or go to the gym, just trying to work on myself recently, which is new for me because I think I usually have been catering to other people and trying to kind of fit the part of what other people would want me to be. So I would say that, my week to week schedule has actually changed fairly recently in a good way.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like you have a full week.
Yeah.
Full plate, but I'm loving that I'm hearing you're putting in time for yourself.
Yeah.
I did hear you mention that it's new for you to start taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, I want to commend you for doing that and showing up for yourself when seems like, if you've been programmed to looking after and taking care of other people, it can be really foreign and hard to do. So that's great, and I'm glad that you have friends and your grandparents that are close. I did hear you mention as well that you're trying to schedule your gym routine, and then in between all of that, you have to factor in eating and sleeping. Can you tell me a little bit about your eating and sleeping habits?
Yeah. I find that they're pretty steady, eating and sleeping well. Despite when my anxiety spikes and stuff like that. It's actually not really affecting my sleep and eating as much as I thought it would. I know that anxiety does affect a lot of people in that way, but what really, I guess, affects it is when I'm having the depressive episodes. I am feeling like I don't want to get up to go to work. I feel like I am kind of filling the part that my mother wanted me in when I was little of like, oh, I'm depressed, like I'm sick, I need help. And then that makes me feel weak, so it's kind of this weird cycle. And when I'm feeling depressed, I'm sleeping a lot more than usual, and I'm not eating as much. So I would say those episodes are what is affecting my sleeping and eating. My anxiety is a little bit more manageable as far as it goes with those two things. Definitely gets in the way of certain things, but the anxiety is the daily one, and on a day-to-day, my eating is, I would say, pretty healthy, just like the normal 3 meals a day, and then sleeping, I get like at least 8 hours of sleep a night usually. It's really just the depressive episodes I'm worried about.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that. So, and that can also be a challenge because you don't know when it's gonna come.
Yeah.
And so it could throw off your whole system, and it sounds like it's re-triggering your past.
Yeah.
And I heard you mention it's making you feel weak and more sick just when you get in these low states.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's definitely something we can work with. And then I heard that your anxiety is manageable, but that's more every day.
Yeah, so I do.
Okay.
I do kind of always feel a little bit on edge. I have some, not too many, but some panic attacks. I feel like the panic attacks are actually coming up, and I'm trying to work with these feelings.
Okay.
Right now, I'm feeling comfortable talking about it, and I feel like I'm in a safe place. But if I'm trying to deal with it on my own, like in my house alone at night, then I start kind of panicking because I'm like, okay, I feel like there's just so much from my past that I'm digging up. And when I do dig it up, it just feels like there's so much that I just get overwhelmed and I want to kind of shut it back down. Then logically I know, like, I need to face it. So I think that my anxiety is definitely situational as far as it's when I'm trying to kind of like dig up my past. And I'm just trying to, I want therapy to be a way where it's slow and I am able to take it, one thing and then the next instead of just kind of all of it at once. Because there's definitely a lot that I haven't processed still. And I'm ready and I'm open to process it, but I think it would help my anxiety if it was more of like a slow process.
I hear that, and I'm definitely taking note of that. That will make sure this is a slow, comfortable process. I don't want you to be re-triggered and like opened up if you're not in a place that you can process it, because it sounds like you've been through a lot and
Yeah.
you've had some tough experiences that you carry with you. And it is wonderful. I hear that you're trying to resurface it and work
Yeah.
through it, but I'm also hearing that that's when you start to get anxious because it's just too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll definitely figure out some coping strategies for you to do it by yourself in a
Yeah.
way that's safe. But we'll start just you and me, so you have
Yeah,
someone else there if you feel comfortable and trusting to do that.
definitely. Yeah.
And when you do notice you're getting a panic attack or like some of these anxiety symptoms when you're alone at your home, what's some things that you do?
Usually I honestly try to like call a friend or call someone I'm close to, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It has helped me, but it also has hindered me in the way of it helps for kind of like a quick, comfort and distraction. But I do feel as if I am distracting myself so much to where it's kind of I'm recognizing that I'm trying to push it away instead of talk about it. So I think one thing I want to do is when these panic attacks arise, like find, kind of my equal again and come back to my body, but then continue to do the work. If I'm able to, instead of just completely pushing it away and then being afraid to face it again. But yeah, I usually call a friend or something, but the more like, I guess, healthier way I've been trying to deal with it recently is kind of meditating or just like dancing around my room, like moving and allowing my body to kind of reach like a safe space again, and then continue what I was doing. Trying to think about these things and, whether it's writing or drawing or whatever it is, just trying to kind of work through the emotions because I recognize that anxiety will come up,
Oh, I see that you have so many positive coping strategies and a lot of your own internal wisdom and intuition that you can use as a guiding force.
Yeah.
I love to hear that you know what your body needs. I heard you say movement and journaling and reading and how you can actually regulate yourself to a place where you feel safer. So that's really wonderful. And also I hear that you do feel this want to call a friend too, and that's okay. It's good to have, multiple different ways of coping, and there's not necessarily one great way. It's just whatever works for you.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I heard that you have positive coping strategies. I love that. I love these wonderful things that you do. I'm also curious if there's any other coping strategies you might not think serve you, like whether it's substance use or other types of things that you do.
Yeah. When I turned 21 for the first time, I started for the first time. I drank that year for the first time, and honestly, I was always kind of against drinking. I didn't want to ever rely on a substance, and then for a few years after that, I did find myself relying on it. If I got anxious or if I got a depressive episode, I would since I had just moved out at 18 when a couple years of still some of that anxiety and everything, and then when I turned 21 and I started drinking, I realized that the anxiety would kind of go away. And I think that was a time in my life where I kind of honestly wasn't connected to myself in a way of I felt like I was almost acting as someone else. The drinking kind of made me a different person. Looking back now, just sitting here, I almost don't recognize the person. But as soon as I recognized it was a problem, I did get help for it. And I haven't drank since, and I don't have the desire to. Because I just feel better, even though I have these anxieties and stuff. I know that I'm really I'm back to where I'm supposed to be in the way of I feel at home in myself. And then other than the drinking, for that short period of time, I don't have any coping mechanisms that I feel are negative or bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, at age 21, you started drinking. you realized it was a problem, and then I heard you say you got help. How long until you got help?
I would say it was probably like a good year.
Okay, so.
And I wasn't drinking every single day, but if something came up that I felt like I needed to deal with, I would drink as, kind of a crutch. And I just didn't like the idea of relying on it, so I got help, and then I just never wanted to again, just in case it got to that point again.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it, and I know that it can absolutely feel like a way to not feel anxiety, and it can get you to a place that might be helpful for coping in that way. But then I also hear that you realize, okay, this is something I don't want, and you got help. Can you tell me a little bit about what that help looked like? Did you go to a treatment center or?
Yeah, well, I did have a therapist at the time, and I did talk to my therapist at the time about it, and although they were helpful in some ways, but I just didn't feel completely safe and honest with the therapist, so I would bring it up, and then I did find myself kind of, like lying or telling them that I stopped and I didn't, which I'm usually a very honest person, but that's, how I felt with therapy is I kind of felt like I had to lie, so I'm really proud of myself today for being so honest, but I did go to, like, a center nearby that helped people with, like, any drinking issues or drug issues, and then I actually talked to my brother a lot about it. Honestly, there wasn't like one specific person or program that helped me. I just think that when I started discussing and actually admitting to myself that it was a problem, that's when I kind of started to get better.
Yeah. I did see you smile a little bit when you said that you're proud of yourself for coming in today, and I know we don't know each other that well, and we'll get to know each other in future sessions, but I can say too that I'm proud of you for coming in here once again, especially because of the trust that you felt was broken by having other therapists that didn't really understand you and how you had to lie. So the fact that you're being honest is really great, and I appreciate that. It's going to definitely help us to work together.
Definitely.
So, okay. Do you have any other medications that you're on, or any other things that you do or take?
So I was on Prozac for, honestly, I think probably about like 5 or so years. And then fairly recently, I went off of Prozac, and now I have like an as needed medicine. So I'm actually forgetting the name of it, but if I have something that I know is going to trigger anxiety, I'll take that. I don't take it often at all. I honestly take it for things that I know is going to cause major anxiety, but other than that, I'm on no medication right now.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. And do you have a psychiatrist currently?
Yes, I still see my psychiatrist just for check-ins about the medication that I take as needed.
Okay, great. Do you have any family history of substance use or mental health stuff? I know you did share with me about your mom, but anything else?
Not that I know of. My mom did tell me that my dad used to have substance abuse issues with alcohol. But everything that she tells me, as far as people's sicknesses and problems, I kind of take with a grain of salt. So I don't know that for sure.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that makes sense. That it's hard to kind of trust what she said. Yeah. And then with your brothers, are they, you said you can always call them, or they helped you, they helped you through when you were getting sober. Are they sober too? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, they drink occasionally, but they don't seem to have an issue.
They don't have substance use issues. Okay. And I just want to clarify too that you're thinking about remaining sober. Is that something you think is good for you? Okay.
Definitely.
Okay. And that's with all substances or just drinking?
Honestly, drinking is most important because that's what I've seen issues with, but I think for a while at least I would like to be sober with all substances, especially when I'm kind of going through this time of working on my anxiety.
Yeah. It's great. Sounds like you're wanting to once again, we're bringing back that holistic lens where
Yeah.
you're wanting to learn new ways to cope in a healthy way. So
Exactly. I think it's important also to have goals with the therapist because that way I can kind of hold myself accountable when I come here, rather than either A, lying, which I have done in the past, or B, having these goals for myself that I know that no one's going to know if I don't accomplish them. It's kind of nice to have someone know your goal so you can go back and tell them that you did it. So yeah, I definitely want to be sober for a while.
okay, yeah, we can absolutely put that down as a goal. And I really do appreciate your honesty and your authenticity to really let me know what it is that you need, and you're taking charge of your own therapy. So that's great. Do you want to get into what some of those goals you want to set now? Do you feel ready to do that, or?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Okay. Sure. So remain sober, I heard. What else?
I would say kind of coping with and processing what has happened with my mother and setting a appropriate boundary with her, to how I can, stay connected to her and have a relationship with her, but also have enough of a boundary to where I'm healthy and, not letting her in so much that's affecting me anymore. So that, I would say that's a big goal.
Yeah, that does sound like a great goal to set for yourself. Okay, we can definitely work through that.
Yeah, and then also, as far as anxiety, ways to cope with my anxiety and not let it get to the panic stage, kind of catching it before it gets there. And then as far as the depressive episodes, I don't know exactly my goal besides just to kind of, lessen them, I would hope, but I do want to also kind of track them and see, I know that I have them, but I haven't really journaled, wrote about it, told people about it, so I haven't been able to track them enough to see if there is a trigger, so I think that's one thing that I do want to do, and then hopefully if we do see a pattern, trying to work on how to lessen them.
Yeah, that seems like a really great goal you're setting for yourself. That we can just start by noticing, tracking, seeing if there are certain things that might trigger it, and we'll just stay there with it when it does come up, and kind of learn a little bit more, be curious. Okay, good. It sounds like great goals. Is there anything else, or do you want to start with that now?
I think that's good for now.
Okay. I love that. And then I heard that you can add this as a goal if you want, or it's something we could just talk about each session. It's up to you, but that you want to work on kind of not lying to your your therapist. And I just want you to feel like you can be in a space that you can be comfortable being honest.
Yeah.
So if there's anything you want to share with me about how I can help facilitate that for you, I would love to work with you on that.
Yeah. I feel as if you're doing a really good job in the way of, when I'm telling you these things, instead of kind of jumping on something, you're responding in a way of you see and hear me. And I think that's a really great way for me to feel safe being honest. So far it's going good, and I do feel good. I feel like this is a nice fit as far as I can be honest and feel safe being honest, and obviously it will grow from there. And I definitely would say that's a goal of mine, is to stay honest with all things. I think today might be the hardest day for me to do that because it's our first time meeting, but I already feel as if I'm telling you all these things, it would be a lot easier to dive deeper into them after I, initially said them.
Okay, great. Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. And like I said before, but I really want, you to know that we can take this process as slow as possible.
Yeah.
We can work together. There's no rush, and just want to maintain a safe and comfortable experience together. So it's definitely something we can do, and you can always talk to me about saying like, hey, I don't like talking about this isn't comfortable for me. Like, don't be afraid to tell me some things too, because I'm still learning about you and learning how to work with you, so I can absolutely take that feedback. Great. So let's see, we got through the goals. I'm just curious, before we go into an assessment, have you ever been diagnosed with any mental health disorders before?
I've had the same therapist tell me that I had generalized anxiety and depression, but they also told me within just like a few times of meeting me that they thought I was bipolar. So I don't usually like telling people my diagnosis because I understand. I definitely think I have anxiety and I definitely potentially have depression. I'm not a big fan of labels, and I don't like the fact that like I was labeled so quickly and that I didn't fully understand the diagnosis. So those are the diagnoses I've been given, but I'm not sure if those really align.
No, and I absolutely hear you, where I want to see you as a whole person, someone beyond just a label or a diagnosis, and I know that can be really hard to hear, especially I heard you say within a few weeks of knowing you and not really seeing you for who you are, maybe, and how that can feel really uncomfortable. Were those tests that you took, or were those just like assessments that they did on their own?
Mostly on their own. We did do a test for the anxiety. It was just like a handout sheet she had, and we kind of went through. And my results were pointing towards anxiety. But I mean, that one, I think I do have anxiety. And I know that I have depressive episodes, but once again, I just am not sure of the exact labels. And I didn't know her enough to really trust that completely, if that makes sense. But yeah, so one of them was a like assessment type thing, and the other ones were she just told me. And then I went to another therapist who said that depression and bipolar don't, coincide, and that it would be one or the other. So I felt kind of confused with the diagnosis. That's why I don't really, like talk about them much or follow them.
No, I can absolutely see how not being talked to and have the diagnosis be explained in a thorough way can be confusing. And also feeling maybe misdiagnosed or
definitely
not wanting to be a part of that label. So I think what might work best for us here is to just kind of take a quick little assessment to just see if that might still be true or fit for you.
That makes sense.
But I want to go over again that I'm not using that as a way to just diagnose you and see you for that, but I think we can use it as a tool to figure out, okay, maybe what is causing depression, what are these symptoms. I think sorry.
Yeah, it's a busy area.
It's a busy area, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
So, I think it might be good for us to kind of clarify this for you, and do it in a person-centered way, especially because I'm a holistic therapist. I really care about more about your story and less about your score.
Absolutely.
But I think it could help us to see the frequency of the depression, so that we can kind of notice, okay, because I heard you say before that's one of your goals to track it, and this might be a good way to start with, okay, when do you feel these feelings and how, and then we'll just kind of do a quick one, if that's okay with you, about the anxiety as well, just to see maybe where you land with anxiety, because I know you said you do feel it every day, but I'm not sure the intensity of how you feel it. So if you're okay with that.
Definitely, yeah.
Alright. Great. And just before we end our little intake here, I know that we went over a lot of tough subjects, brought up some things from the past, talked a lot about mental health. I just want to check in and make sure you're not experiencing any suicidal ideation or any thoughts.
No.
Have you ever before?
No.
No? Thank you. And one last question. Have you ever had any run-ins with the law? Any legal things I should know about?
No.
Okay, well, I really appreciate how thorough you were,
Yeah.
how vulnerable you were to show up and tell me your story. And I think this could be a really great start for us, and I'm glad that I have your history so I can see you for your whole self and all of that. So, if it's okay with you, I'd like to start with just a quick and easy little anxiety assessment.
Sure.
Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, over the last 2 weeks, how often have you been bothered by the following problems? And then I'll go through what they are.
Okay.
They're going to be 7 questions. And you just rate it from 0 to 3.
Okay.
So 0 is going to be not at all.
Mhm.
1 is going to be you experience these symptoms several days during those 2 weeks. 2 is going to be more than half the days.
Mhm.
And then 3 is nearly every day.
Okay.
So that will just help me kind of see how frequent this is for you.
Okay.
Do you understand how the rating scale works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 0, not at all, 1, several days, 2, more than half the days, 3, nearly every day.
Mhm.
Feeling nervous, anxious, or on edge?
I would say 3.
Not being able to stop or control worrying?
Maybe 2.
2. Worrying too much about different things?
2.
Trouble relaxing?
1.
Being so restless that it's hard to sit still?
1.
Becoming easily annoyed or irritable?
2.
Feeling afraid as if something awful might happen?
0.
Okay. So, good. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. I do have another one. So, this is going to be very similar, but this is going to be about your depression symptoms. Once again, it's only like 9 questions.
Okay.
So if you feel comfortable, do you want to begin?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be over the last 2 weeks. How often have you been bothered by the following problems? So same kind of thing, 0 to 3. 0 is not at all. 1, several days. 2, more than half the days. And 3, nearly every day.
Okay.
Got it?
Mhm.
Okay. Little interest or pleasure in doing things?
So this is specifically the past few weeks?
Yes.
Okay. I would say 1.
Feeling down, depressed, or hopeless?
Probably 2.
Trouble falling or staying asleep?
0.
Feeling tired or having little energy?
2.
Poor appetite or overeating?
0.
Feeling bad about yourself or that you're a failure or have let your family down?
2.
Trouble concentrating on things such as reading or watching TV?
Probably 1.
Moving or speaking slowly or being fidgety or restless?
3.
Thoughts that you would be better off dead or thoughts of hurting yourself?
0.
Okay. So I appreciate doing these little assessments. Once again, it's just going to help me to get to know you better.
Mhm.
So I see that you have a lot of positive factors, a lot of wonderful coping strategies and good support systems and connection to your spirituality and to yourself and wanting to be here and wanting to feel better. And so I really appreciate you coming in
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we can start this journey together and doing it in a more holistic way where you're empowered to show up and be who you want to be and who you are right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. So I just want to know, is there anything else that you think I should know about you or want to add or want to update any of your goals? Which throughout this whole process, you can add or change any goals, update anything about yourself to me, so you have time for that. But if you wanted anything to end this session to close out.
I don't think so. I think that we covered pretty much everything that I'm comfortable sharing today.
Okay.
And actually that's more than I have told a lot of people. So I would say this is a pretty good step. But I'm looking forward to coming back.
Great. I think this is a wonderful step, and I'm really honored that we can do it together, and I'm excited to have you back.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.